First of all, the larynx should be able to move up and down freely. We shouldn't want our larynx to be in a fixed position, whether it's low position, neutral position, or high position. Anytime you are in the extreme, anytime you are rigid with anything, right, it leads to vocal issues. So I want to start with that so you understand where I'm coming from. Okay, I don't want you to feel like, oh, this is the only position I need to be at if I want to belt high notes. Okay, so the larynx, right? It's right here where your voice box is, and it has three positions that you can think of. We have the low position, we have the neutral position, and we have the high position, and then everything else in between. It really depends on what you are singing and what quality you are singing in. But I am focusing on belting high notes today, okay? And when you are in a belt quality, things are a little different. Okay, let's define what a high belt even means, because once you belt high notes in your vocal range, the larynx will need to change, okay? So when I am doing a high belt, I'm singing high notes in my range above my transition zone, where I feel like I need to sing more in M2 rather than in M1. Therefore, I lose a lot of body of my vocal folds. I lose a little bit of that intensity, and I get my intensity for the belt through the twang or through other ways of boosting my resonance, and usually it's through vowel modification. However, when I am doing a belt quality on those high notes, my larynx will want to be elevated. That means it wants to be in a high position. With that high position, you are going to get that brassy sound out. Just cause, okay? Now, if you want less of that brassy sound, you can try to anchor your larynx a little bit lower, but the higher you go, the larynx will really want to rise due to the belt quality you need to create. If you sing in more of a classical way, you don't really need to bring the larynx that high. You can actually sing with a lower larynx, but still reach high notes. So we really need to understand what we are singing. Are we belting, or are we just simply singing high notes in a more head voice quality, okay? So you don't always have to raise your larynx to sing high notes. That's what I'm trying to get at. Okay? So with a high larynx, I want to bring your attention to the jaw, okay? I really want to focus on creating a centered jaw rather than telling singers to drop their jaw more to get the belt out, because I found out the more I drop my jaw, the longer the jaw, the lower the larynx. However, if I'm trying to do a high belt, it just doesn't work. I feel strain, okay? So if you hear the advice to drop your jaw lower and lower and lower, it just doesn't make sense, okay? It makes sense if you're singing in a classical way to have more of that fuller, darker timbre. However, for a bright and brassy belt sound, it just doesn't make sense, okay? So for example, I've been working on Listen from Dreamgirls, and you will really hear the difference in larynx position when I show you this. It starts here, into your own, right? My larynx is pretty low, if anything, more in a neutral to low position due to my vowel. Into your own, all 'cause you won't listen. So my jaw, I want it to be center. If I feel like it's deviating to one side or the other, that means there's tension on one side or one side is weaker. And what happens is it really morphs your soft palate. And for belting, you need a lifted and firm soft palate to create that space, the back of your throat space that I've been talking about for more resonance. Okay, so that's why I really want to teach singers, focus on a center jaw when you try to belt, rather than forcing your jaw to be overly dropped, thinking that's how you should be belting high notes. It just causes strain and it doesn't look nice either, right? So instead of going for this look, okay, I want you to try to just drop your jaw in a natural way, like as if you are gasping. Okay, and that's all you need. Now, you might need to open a little bit more for certain notes, for certain vowels. Yes. What I'm just saying, centered jaw. Okay? I'm gonna get a mirror because sometimes I can't see when I'm looking into the camera, right? I'm gonna check myself. Okay. I do feel tension pulling to one side, but that's because I've been teaching a lot. And so there is going to have some, I'm going to have some tension. So I really want to stretch the jaw, okay? So a good way to stretch the jaw, if you do feel like you have tension there, is to simply slowly drop the jaw like this. Try to do it with me. Ready? And then slowly back up, okay? What you're looking for is any weakness to one side or the other. And it might take a minute for you to just tell your jaw to go straight down and to go straight back up, okay? So notice how I don't have to go like this, because if I do this, I'm gonna drop my larynx way too low for that high note. Now, if I were to sing this more in a classical way, if I want to reach this note with a lowered larynx without a belt, this is what it would sound like. Into your own, all 'cause you won't listen. Right? So I can still reach the high notes, but it's just a different tone quality, a different voice quality too. All right, I hope that answers your questions about larynx position for high belting. It changes with how you are singing your song, what notes you are singing, what kind of vowels you are modifying to. Everything is affected, and the larynx should just be able to move up and down regardless of voice quality. But if you feel like you need to do a high larynx, that's okay. It's not dangerous. Just don't stay up there for too long. A great way to bring it back down is to do a sigh like this. See that? Or a yawn. Right? Okay, so my last advice for you is just don't stay in the extreme for too long. That's where you can run into vocal issues. But a high belt for me requires a higher larynx. And due to the higher larynx, I want to lift my soft palate even more to create some space for my sound waves to travel to. If there's no space, especially for the higher frequency, then the lowered soft palate will actually dampen my sound, and I'm gonna feel muted. I won't have a nice ring or a nice resonance coming out of my mouth. So all of those things, although isolated, they come together to help you belt in a full and healthy way. All right? Okay, thank you so much for watching. That's all for now, and I'll see you next time.